Good morning, Class 4S at Ashfield Junior School and Mrs. Smits, the teacher, the wonderful teacher. My name is Alistair Humphreys. I am the author of The Boy Who Biked the World. Thank you very much for reading my book and for asking me these questions. Now, you've asked some brilliant questions. You've also asked a lot of questions, so I'm going to get on with them straight away and go quite quickly because I am. And you don't want to listen to me all day, so here we go. You see, I've just wasted there. I've wasted about 33 seconds by telling you how I wasn't going to waste any time. And that was quite silly of me. That's not good. Right. D wants to know, did any of your family members think your idea was crazy? Most of my friends and family thought the idea of cycling around the world was crazy because it's not a normal thing to do. Not many people go and do that. I am very lucky though in that people didn't try to put me off. They said to me, we think your idea is crazy, but it is important to you, so we will support you. And that's amazing to have support of friends and family when you're trying to do something a bit crazy. Jaden says, what was your favourite country? Now I've been to, on cycling around the world I went to 60 countries. And I must have been asked this question about 100 times what my favourite country is. And I reckon I give a fairly different answer every single time. And the reason for that is you like different countries for lots of different reasons. Some places you like the weather. Some places have got nice, kind people. Some have got delicious food. And so it sort of depends a bit on my mood as to what I think of as my favourite country. So right now, for example, it is June in England, it is the middle of summer, and that of course means it is freezing cold and pouring with rain. So right now I'm thinking how wonderful Costa Rica is, or the lovely sunshine of South Africa. But on another day I might say that for sheer adventure I loved Russia, middle of winter, Siberia, tough but kind people. Or if getting towards lunchtime, I might mention Syria or Japan or China for delicious food. So there are lots of different favourite countries. Elise asks, what was the most frightening part? The most frightening part probably was cycling in crazy traffic in massive cities that weren't used to bicycles. Or a different sort of frightening was the feeling of setting off to cycle around the world and not having any idea what it was going to be like and not knowing whether I could do it. So the fear of the unknown, starting a big thing, is a scary thing. Maybe you found the same thing when you start a new school or a new club. You turn up to dancing lessons for the first time and you're too scared to go in. But once you get in through the front door and begin, then you think, oh, actually this isn't too bad. Lily says, did you make any new friends on your journey? And if so, are you still friends? Making friends was one of the best bits of cycling around the world. Often, though, they were very brief. So I would, for example, cycle down a road, find a little cafe, go in there. Everyone would be interested to talk to me because I was this guy on a big bike cycling around the world. And I'd have a lovely time and make some quick friends. And then, boom, cycle off, never see them again. And there were thousands of those moments. Then there were all the kind people who invited me to stay in their house. And they were friends, of course, because they were being kind strangers who became friends. But a lot of them I didn't see again afterwards and so faded away. And then a few people who I stayed with, then we kept in touch and have stayed as friends since. And that's been really nice to have as well. But mostly I would say it was a journey about brief, short friendships, and then you move on down the road, which is a kind of strange way to live for 4 years. Clayton says, what was the cow blood and milk like? You know, the book starts with the boy Tom drinking the cow blood and the milk, and then it goes on to tell Tom's story of going all the way around the world and all the adventures he had along the way through 3 books. And this is a weird thing that it took me quite a long time to realise it was weird. The whole story is true. I cycle around the world myself, and I did all of those things that Tom did. I've moulded them and made them simpler to fit into stories. But really, it's the story of me cycling around the world, and it's all true. So why then did I begin book one with a story that isn't true? I never actually drank the cow's blood and milk, and it's a very famous Maasai tradition, and so it's a true thing. It's a real and true thing, but I didn't actually do it. So, and that's the only thing in all the books that isn't true. I have no idea why I did that. It was a bit weird, but yeah, I didn't do it. Anyway, lessons in writing. Matthew says, were you ever scared? Yes, I was often scared. I think being a bit nervous means you're on an adventure, not a holiday, but occasionally I was scared. Much more often though, I was not scared. Much more often I was just happy and excited to be out in the world. It wasn't really a scary experience. Joel asks how many punctures I got. Oh, Joel, I lost count. I got through about 20 tyres, not the tubes, the tyre around the edge. I got through 3 bikes. Pretty much everything that could break did break. My worst day of punctures was one day in the high mountains in Bolivia, in South America, on rocky roads. I got 15 punctures in one day. That was a bad day at the office. Freddie wants to know, what was my least favourite country? I didn't really have least favourite places because everywhere was interesting, and every country I'm really glad I went to. At the time though, I found Ethiopia probably the hardest country. It's a very, very poor place. It was, when I cycled through, very, very poor. And I went through areas where people were extremely poor and had almost nothing and were very hungry. And I found it really hard to cycle through here, knowing that I come from this rich, happy country where all of us have some food and somewhere to, well, nearly all of us have some food and somewhere to sleep, and are really generally very lucky compared to a lot of countries. So yeah, I found Ethiopia a hard place to cycle through, but it's a beautiful country with amazing music and culture, and I would definitely love to go back there. Lucy says, did you ever get hurt? Not really, because no, I never really did get hurt, which is pretty lucky. Although one night I was camping in the mountains and the wind was so strong that I put my tent behind a dry stone wall to shelter from the wind. And it was so windy that in the night a rock fell off the top of the wall and bonked me on the head through the tent. And I remember literally seeing stars, like blue stars in front of my eyes. And I remember thinking, ooh, you actually do see stars. It's not just on Tom and Jerry cartoons that happened, and that really hurt. And thinking about it, that could have ended up a lot worse, getting hit on the head by a rock whilst you're asleep. Did you celebrate anything on your trip like people's birthdays, asks Chloe. Well, my birthdays and Christmases were rubbish, and that was a lonely time. Although once when I was in Chile in South America, I told a class of children where I gave a talk, I told them that I'd missed my birthday. And on the Saturday morning, they turned up at where I was staying with cake and threw me a little birthday party. And that was a really lovely act of kindness from people thousands and thousands of miles away from where I live. Isaac wants to know what made me think of being an author. Reading books made me want to be an author. Reading books is the biggest superpower there is. Don't tell your teacher, but you will learn more about the world and exciting things and what you want to do in your life. You'll learn more about that from reading books than you probably will in school. So read lots of books. Reading books is what made me dream of adventure. I've got lots of adventure books up on my shelves here, and reading these books made me think, wow, I would like to go on adventures as well. And then from enjoying reading books, I then thought that I'd like to write books as well. I used to give lots of talks to schools about cycling around the world, and I enjoyed talking to young children about... Oh, sorry, I just did a burp. That's extremely rude of me. Sorry. I used to enjoy doing talks at schools about adventures, and that made me want to try and turn those experiences into a written book for children. Matthew says, how did you pay for things on your travels? Cycling around the world I paid for by saving up my own money. I worked for about 5 years, part-time job, working in a pub and weekends in the army, and I saved up £7,000, which sounds like a lot of money, but if you divide it up by 4 years, then actually it's a pretty cheap adventure. It's definitely cheaper than just living at home in England is. So I lived off my savings from that, and then since then, adventure is now my job, and so now I pay for my travels by writing books, and when I've sold enough books, then I can go on adventures. So please, buy all my books for Christmas. Get your mum and dad some books as well. They're very good things. Jackson says, what type of bike did you use? I used a fairly simple steel mountain bike, but I called a specialised rock hopper. But I fixed on bags that go on the back wheels and on the front wheels so I could carry all my camping stuff. Noah says, did you miss your family? Yeah, I did. I was away for 4 years, so 4 years without seeing your friends and family is a long time, and I was often felt homesick and sad, and I felt guilty that my mum and dad wouldn't see me for that long. Maybe they were happy about it, but yeah, I did miss my family. Minnie says, what was the hottest place? The hottest place was the Nubian Desert in Sudan. It was 45 degrees. The coldest place was Siberia, minus 40 degrees, which is much colder than being inside a freezer. Gray says, were you tired when you finally got home after all those years away? Yeah, I was really tired. I mean, I was obviously tired from cycling a long way, and I was quite looking forward to sleeping a lot and relaxing and being a bit lazy. But what I hadn't realised was how mentally tired I was, how tired I was in my head of just being on the move all the time, meeting new people all the time, solving problems all the time, not having one set home or a community. And I was really tired, much more tired than I realised. It took me a lot longer than I thought it would to recover and get back to normal. Lucas, what country were you nervous to cycle through? I was very nervous about cycling through Sudan because they'd just been finishing a war, but actually that turned out to be a wonderful, beautiful, friendly, safe place to ride. And I was very nervous about cycling through Colombia because they were still having a war as I cycled through. But luckily I didn't meet any bad guys, and I met lots of good, kind, friendly people. That is all the questions. Thank you very much for all your questions. I hope my answers were not too long and boring. 12 minutes and 45 seconds. Gosh, I should shut up right now. Thank you for reading my book, and good luck with all of your adventures.